Every time my driver took me to work, he brought his girlfriend along. Since it was on the way, I never said anything about it. Until one day I opened the car door and found a note stuck to my seat in the back. Freeloaders not allowed in this car. I peeled the note off and turned to the driver. What is this? His girlfriend was sitting in the passenger seat, glaring at me with open contempt. Can't you read? Every single day you move to write off my boyfriend. Have you no shame? If you can't afford a cab, stay home. God, I can't stand leeches like you. I stared at her, completely baffled. The driver rushed over to my side and whispered his explanation. Miss Pruitt, my girlfriend doesn't know I'm a chauffeur. She's the jealous type. The note is just her way of showing she cares about me. He paused, then added, also, she's not comfortable sharing a car with you. Let me drop her off first, and then I'll come back for you. Before I could respond, he climbed behind the wheel of my car and drove off. I stood on the curb, watching the taillights disappear. Then I calmly pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Hello, a man and a woman just took my car without permission. I'd like to report a theft. Never in my life had I imagined that as the CEO of a publicly traded company, someone would look me in the eye and call me a freeloader. And the car they drove off in was mine. 20 minutes after the call, a squad car pulled up in front of me. 2 officers had barely stepped out when Alfred Lawrence came tearing around the corner in my black Maybach. He slammed the brakes, lurching to a stop just feet away, and jumped out. His face was chalk white. Miss Pruitt, what happened? Why did you call the police? I looked at him, said nothing. One of the officers sized him up. Are you the individual Miss Pruitt says took her vehicle without authorization? The color drained from Alfred's face even further. No, officers, this is all a misunderstanding. His hands went up, palms out. I'm Miss Pruitt's driver. I drive her every day. I just dropped someone off on the way. Took a few extra minutes, that's all. Nobody stole anything. He gestured frantically at the Maybach behind him, forcing a grin. See? I brought the car right back. First thing. The officers looked at me, then back at him. Miss Pruitt, do you want to press charges? I was about to answer when Alfred leaned in close, his voice dropping to a desperate whisper. Miss Pruitt, please. For my father's sake. He drove for you all those years. Just let this one go. He swallowed hard. You know my dad's health isn't good. I finally found a girlfriend, and it's the one thing he wanted for me. What I did back there was just to keep things stable between her and me. I had no choice. The mention of his father softened something in me. Owen Lawrence had been my chauffeur for 6 years. Honest, dependable, steady behind the wheel, and never once a source of trouble. In all those years he had never been late, never gotten a single violation. Every holiday when I handed him a bonus, he'd try to wave it off for a solid 5 minutes before finally accepting. 3 months ago, Owen was diagnosed with a lung condition that required long-term rest. He had no choice but to resign. On his last day, he stood in my office, rough hands twisting together, clearly wanting to say something but unable to get the words out. Finally, face flushed with embarrassment, he told me his son Alfred had just lost his job. If the company had an opening, could I possibly give the boy a chance? But starting last month, things changed. The day it began, Alfred came to pick me up, and there was suddenly a woman caked in heavy makeup sitting in the passenger seat. I stared, confused. Alfred hurried out to open my door and explained in a low voice, Ms. Pruitt, this is my girlfriend, Kara Fox. Her workplace is on the way to the office, so I figured I'd give her a ride. I nodded and said nothing. Giving someone a ride along the way wasn't a big deal, but gradually, something started to feel off. What was supposed to be on the way turned into a fixed, daily routine that never varied. Every morning, Alfred picked up Kara first, then came for me. At the start, Kara just liked snapping photos in the passenger seat and posting videos, showing off to people that she was riding in a Maybach. I could understand that. She was young. A little vanity was normal. What I couldn't understand was the look she gave me every single time. It was pure disgust, as though I owed her $1 million. A few times after I got into the car, she sprayed perfume in my direction and complained loudly.
God, this is so annoying.
How does a car this expensive always reek of something cheap? I thought she'd actually smelled something off, so I specifically told Alfred to take the car in for a thorough deep clean and disinfection. But she only got worse. Sometimes after I stepped out, she'd spray disinfectant on the seat where I'd been sitting. Other times, she'd lay a disposable seat cover over my spot before I even got in. When I confronted Alfred about it, he always offered the same sheepish excuse in private. Miss Pruitt, Kara's just worried the car isn't clean enough and might stain your clothes. She's particular about hygiene, that's all. I didn't think much of it. After all, I had too much on my plate every day. With projects worth hundreds of millions passing through my hands, I simply didn't have the energy to squabble with some young girl over petty nonsense. Until this morning, when I saw the note stuck to my usual seat, it all clicked. Kara thought I was a freeloader. I'd been planning to teach both Alfred and Kara a lesson. But now Alfred was on his knees in front of me, begging relentlessly, Ms. Pruitt, I swear it'll never happen again. I'll set Kara straight today. I'll never give her rides again.
Please.
My father's health isn't good. For his sake, forgive me this once. The thought of Owen made me sigh. Forget it. I'm dropping it. After the officer left, Alfred let out a long, heavy breath of relief, thanking me over and over, his attitude suddenly impeccable. I said nothing more. I got in the car and told him to take me to the office. For a while after that, Alfred actually behaved. Every time he came to pick me up, the passenger seat was empty. No sign of Kara. The car had been cleaned too. Every trace of that note had been scrubbed away. His driving was still smooth. No issues there. The only problem was that he kept showing up late, and every time, he had an excuse. Sorry, Miss Pruitt. There was an accident on the road. Traffic was backed up for a while. I'm really sorry, Miss Pruitt. My alarm didn't go off. I overslept. Ms. Pruitt, a pipe burst in my apartment. I was dealing with the neighbors downstairs about the water damage, so I ran a little behind. The excuses always sounded flimsy, but since his attitude was decent enough, I let it slide. I thought that was the end of it. Then one weekend, on a whim, I decided to spend a couple of days at the suburban villa for a little getaway. I called Alfred. Where are you right now? I need to go somewhere. Come pick me up. He hemmed and hawed for a long time before finally answering, his voice careful and measured. Miss Pruitt, I woke up this morning and found the car had a flat tire. I'm at the auto shop right now getting it fixed. The mechanic says it won't be ready until tomorrow. Where are you headed? I can call a car for you if you'd like. I frowned, not wanting the hassle. Forget it. I'll grab a cab myself. After hanging up, I hailed a ride to the suburban villa. But when I arrived at the front gate, I froze. My Maybach was parked right outside the villa, completely intact. I stared at it for several seconds. Once I confirmed it was definitely my car, I quickened my pace toward the front door. It was ajar. I pushed it open, and the sight inside knocked the air out of me. The living room was destroyed. The coffee table and floor were littered with empty bottles, fruit peels, sunflower seed shells, and cigarette butts. The sofa and carpet, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, were covered in dirty footprints. In several spots, cigarette burns had eaten black holes straight through the fabric. My gaze swept the room and landed on the couch directly facing the door. Kara was sitting there, surrounded by a crowd. Kara, you're so lucky to have found such a powerful boyfriend, right? Not just rich, but so good to you. You mentioned wanting roasted sweet potatoes, and he ran out to buy them like a puppy. When you're a trophy wife, don't forget about us little people. Okay? Kara's lips curled into a smug grin. She was about to respond when she glanced up and spotted me standing in the doorway. Her smile vanished. She stood, her heels clicking against the floor as she strode toward me, chin raised. Crack. Without a word, she slapped me hard across the face. You shameless tramp. You followed my boyfriend here? The blow came out of nowhere. I stood rooted to the spot, my cheek burning. Everyone in the room stared, wide-eyed. Kara, what's going on? Kara jabbed a finger at me, her face twisted with disgust. This is the freeloader I was just telling you about. Mooching rides off my boyfriend wasn't enough. Now she's shown up to mooch off his house. I looked at her in disbelief. Who told you this is Alfred's house? Kara let out a sharp, mocking laugh.
He did.
Told me himself. You pathetic little gold digger. You found out my boyfriend is the CEO of the company, so now you're pulling every trick in the book to get close to him. Bumming rides every day, manufacturing excuses to be alone with him. That wasn't enough? Now you've come crawling to his villa to throw yourself at him? Let me make one thing crystal clear. Alfred told me he only drives you to and from work because you're an employee at his company. He's being generous. Don't mistake his kindness for an invitation. So that was the story Alfred had fed her. No wonder Kara had always treated me like dirt. In her mind, Alfred was the one who owned the luxury car and the villa. He was the CEO, and I was just some employee who worked under him. So all this time, Kara had believed I was the one mooching rides in Alfred's luxury car, shamelessly trying to seduce her boyfriend. What a joke. Kara turned to her friends and announced at the top of her lungs, "You want to know how shameless this tramp really is? She parks herself in my boyfriend's car every single day. You literally can't get rid of her." I even left a note telling her to stop riding with him, and she threw a fit and called the cops, claiming he was harassing an employee. So my boyfriend had to start dropping me off at the office first, then double back just to chauffeur her around, all to protect the company's reputation. I have never in my life seen a more shameless piece of trash. My eyes went wide. So that was why Alfred had been late picking me up every day. He'd been sneaking off to drive Kara around first, then coming back for me. Well played, Alfred, well played. You want to treat me like a fool? Then don't blame me for what comes next. I pulled out my phone on the spot and dialed the legal department. Get a team to my villa at Peach Blossom right now. Before I could finish, Kara snatched the phone out of my hand and hurled it against the floor. Then her gaze dropped to my neck, and her eyes lit up. That jade pendant doesn't look cheap. Let me guess. You spread your legs for some sugar daddy to buy it? She grabbed the chain and ripped it off my neck. The motion was so fast, so violent, I didn't even have time to react before the necklace was in her hand. The blood drained from my face. Give it back. My sudden panic only made her smile sharpen. She dangled the pendant just out of reach. This nervous? Must be worth a fortune. It's worthless, I blurted, lunging for it. But it means everything to me. Give it back.
Now.
I grabbed for it, desperate. That jade pendant was a protective charm my mother had given her life to obtain. I'd been sickly since birth. When I was 4, I was hospitalized in critical condition, unconscious and fading. The doctors told my parents to start making arrangements. My mother refused to accept it. She went to a temple to pray for me. To prove the sincerity of her devotion, she set out in the scorching heat of 100-degree summer and prostrated herself the entire way, one bow for every step, from the base of the mountain to its peak. By the time she reached the top, her knees were torn to raw flesh, white bone visible beneath the blood. Her forehead was split open, her consciousness flickering.
No.
My mother's pendant, the one she'd traded her life for.
Gone. Just like that.
The pain in my chest was so sharp I couldn't breathe. You're an animal. Something inside me snapped. I swung my hand and slapped Kara across the face as hard as I could. You bitch. Kara shrieked, clutching her cheek. Beat this slut within an inch of her life. Her voice pitched higher, eyes wild with fury. Whoever does the best job gets $1 million. The words hit like a starting pistol. Kara's friends' eyes lit up, and they descended on me in a frenzy of fists and kicks. You actually hit Kara? She's about to become the wife of Grandview Group CEO. Who the hell do you think you are? They beat me to the ground. My whole body shook with rage. I gritted my teeth and forced out the words, "You're going to regret this." The room erupted in laughter, every one of them throwing their heads back like I'd told the funniest joke they'd ever heard. They pinned me to the ground, mocking and humiliating me without a shred of restraint. Surrounded by her cheering entourage, Kara grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked my head up, her face twisted with vicious triumph. Regret? I've never regretted a single thing in my entire life. She leaned closer. Go ahead. Show me what a worthless piece of trash like you can do to make me regret. The words had barely left her mouth when the roar of engines filled the air. One luxury car after another came tearing up the driveway, pulling to a stop in front of a villa. The laughter in the room died instantly. Car doors slammed one after another outside the villa. Heavy footsteps thundered across the marble entryway. Then the front doors burst open. More than a dozen people flooded inside. Lawyers in tailored suits, security personnel, senior executives from Grandview Group, and at the very front was Alfred. The moment he saw me sprawled on the floor, blood at the corner of my mouth, his entire face went dead white. For one frozen second, nobody moved. Then Alfred's gaze landed on Kara, on the jade pendant dangling carelessly from her fingers, on the cigarette burns in the carpet, on the shattered remains of my phone. His lips began trembling uncontrollably. Kara, his voice cracked. What did you do? Kara blinked at him, still riding the high of having an audience. She strutted forward and wrapped herself around his arm like a spoiled cat. Baby, this psycho woman followed us here again. She even hit me. Kara pointed at me dramatically. Don't worry though. I already taught her a lesson for you. Alfred didn't react. He was staring at the pendant in her hand like he was looking at a loaded gun. Then suddenly, smack, the sound exploded through the room. Kara screamed as Alfred's slap sent her crashing sideways onto the couch. Everyone froze. She clutched her face in disbelief. Hey, Alfred. His voice came out shaking with terror. Who told you this house belonged to me? Kara stared at him blankly.
What?
The car. Alfred swallowed hard. The villa, Grandview Group. Cold sweat poured down his forehead. They're all hers. Silence. Absolute silence. Kara's expression slowly cracked apart. What? Alfred pointed at me with a trembling hand, looking like he was moments from collapsing. She's Vivian Pruitt, the founder, the CEO, the owner of everything. The room went deathly still. One of Kara's friends actually let out a tiny choking sound. Another dropped her drink all over the carpet. Kara's lips parted soundlessly. No. Her eyes darted wildly around the room, landing on the executives standing behind Alfred. Every single one of them was looking at me with alarm and respect. One of the lawyers rushed forward immediately. Ms. Pruitt, are you injured? Another executive looked furious enough to kill. Call an ambulance now. Kara stumbled backward. No, that's impossible. Her makeup suddenly couldn't hide how pale she'd become. I slowly pushed myself upright. Every muscle in my body screamed in pain, but I forced myself to stand anyway. Then I looked directly at Kara. You wanted to know what a worthless piece of trash like me could do? I held out my hand. One of the lawyers immediately placed a folder into it. I opened it calmly. Starting now, every person in this room is being sued. The color drained from every face simultaneously. For assault, for destruction of private property, for trespassing, for theft. My eyes landed on Kara's hand, and for stealing my mother's pendant. Kara began shaking violently. You can't. I can. My voice was flat. And I will. Then I turned toward Alfred. His knees gave out before I even spoke. He hit the floor with a thud. Miss Pruitt, please. His eyes were bloodshot with panic. I swear I never wanted things to go this far. I just wanted Kara to think I was successful. I only lied because I didn't want her leaving me. I stared at him coldly. So you let her humiliate me? No. You let her insult me in my own car. His breathing became ragged. You let her destroy my home. He opened his mouth desperately, but no sound came out. And when she assaulted me, I looked down at him. You weren't even here. Alfred completely broke. He collapsed forward, forehead smashing against the floor as he begged. But this time, the mention of his father did nothing for me, because Owen Lawrence would have died of shame if he'd seen what his son had become. I turned to security. Remove everyone from my property. The room erupted into chaos instantly. Kara finally snapped out of her stupor and lunged toward me hysterically. You bitch. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Security grabbed her before she could reach me. I almost laughed. You never gave me the chance. Kara shrieked as they dragged her toward the door. Her friends were crying now, desperately claiming they hadn't hit me that hard, that Kara had pressured them, that they were innocent. Nobody listened. One by one, they were hauled outside. Kara fought the hardest. The pendant was still clenched in her fist. I walked over slowly and held out my hand. For the first time since meeting me, genuine fear appeared in her eyes. She gave it back. The moment the jade touched my palm, my chest tightened so hard it hurt. My mother's pendant, still intact. I closed my fingers around it carefully. Then I looked at Kara one last time. You said you've never regretted anything in your life. I slipped the pendant back around my neck. You're about to learn. 3 days later, Grandview Group released an official statement. Alfred Lawrence had been terminated for fraud, misuse of company assets, reputational damage, and unauthorized use of executive property. Every luxury item he'd used to impress Kara vanished overnight. The company repossessed the Maybach. The villa security system permanently blacklisted his identity. His corporate accounts were frozen pending investigation. As for Kara, the moment people discovered she'd beaten the CEO of Grandview Group inside the CEO's own villa, her entire social circle evaporated. Brands she collaborated with dropped her immediately. Videos she'd proudly posted riding around in my car spread online alongside the truth. The comments were merciless. A gold digger calling the owner of Freeloader is insane. She thought she bagged a billionaire and ended up dating the chauffeur. Imagine destroying the CEO's house while bragging about becoming the CEO's wife. Within a week, Kara became the laughingstock of the entire city. And the lawsuits? I pursued every single one. Not because of the car, not because of the villa, but because she touched the one thing my mother left me with blood on her hands. That I would never forgive. The lawsuits were only the beginning. Once my legal team started digging, the rot underneath Alfred and Kara's lives surfaced fast. Painfully fast. Alfred hadn't just borrowed my car for dates. He'd been using it constantly. Valet records showed he'd driven executives' vehicles to luxury clubs, pretending they belonged to him. He used company fuel accounts for personal trips. He even used my corporate access credentials to reserve private rooms under my name. The deeper investigators went, the uglier it got. And because Grandview Group was publicly traded, the board had no choice but to make an example out of him.
Fraud.
Misrepresentation. Unauthorized use of executive assets. The criminal charges stacked one after another. The media tore him apart. News stations replayed the footage from my villa security cameras non-stop. Alfred kneeling in front of me, begging. Kara screaming while security dragged her away. Headlines mocked him relentlessly. The fake CEO. The chauffeur who played billionaire. The gold digger who targeted the wrong woman. People online dug up every old photo Kara had ever posted in my Maybach. Every smug caption. Every fake luxury lifestyle video. The internet turned her into a joke overnight. But the worst part for Kara wasn't the public humiliation. It was Alfred. The second his accounts were frozen and the lawsuits hit, he completely unraveled. The expensive dinners stopped. The fake designer gifts stopped. The hotel suite stopped. Suddenly, he couldn't even afford her salon appointments. And Kara? She had never loved Alfred. She loved the fantasy of being envied. The moment the illusion shattered, so did she. Witnesses later said they saw her screaming at him outside his apartment building in the middle of the night, throwing his clothes off the balcony, smashing the windshield of the cheap used car he borrowed after mine was repossessed. Neighbors recorded everything. Of course the videos spread online too. People laughed themselves sick. But karma still wasn't finished with them. Because during the investigation, auditors uncovered something even more catastrophic. Alfred had secretly taken small loans from multiple finance companies while pretending to be a senior executive at Grandview Group. He used fake income statements, fake employment verification, fake asset declarations. The total debt reached 7 figures. The lenders sued immediately. Collection agencies started hunting him day and night. He lost his apartment within 2 months. Then came Owen. The old man learned everything from the news. Every lie, every humiliation, every disgusting thing his son had done using the goodwill Owen spent years building. According to the nurse at his rehabilitation center, Owen watched the villa footage once, then quietly asked them to turn the television off. After that, he stopped speaking much at all. A week later, he suffered respiratory failure. Alfred arrived too late to say goodbye. I heard he completely broke down in the hospital hallway, begging his father's covered body to wake up, apologizing over and over. But dead men don't forgive. And grief didn't save him from prison. Once the fraud charges finalized, Alfred was sentenced to several years behind bars. The first month inside, inmates recognized him from the viral news clips. They called him CEO. Not out of respect, out of mockery. As for Kara, without Alfred funding her life, she spiraled frighteningly fast. She tried chasing wealthy men again, but nobody reputable wanted a woman infamous for assaulting a billionaire CEO on camera. Especially not after the court ordered her to pay enormous damages jointly with her friends. The friends who once swore loyalty immediately turned on her to save themselves. One claimed Kara was the mastermind. Another testified Kara offered money to beat me. Another handed over private messages where Kara bragged about putting the office slut in her place. Every betrayal pushed Kara deeper into ruin. She sold her jewelry first, then her bags, then her apartment. Eventually, she vanished from social media entirely after people started recognizing her in public and recording her. The last update I ever received about her came from one of my assistants. Kara had taken a job at a dingy nightclub on the edge of the city. One night, drunk customers recognized her from the scandal. They mocked her all evening. Hey, aren't you the woman who thought the chauffeur on the mansion? The entire club burst out laughing. Kara locked herself in the bathroom afterward and cried so hard security had to force the door open. And me? I repaired the villa, replaced the furniture, restored the carpets. But I never replaced the pendant. Because when I held that jade charm in my hands after getting it back, I realized something. My mother had crawled bleeding up a mountain, so I could survive. People like Alfred and Kara were never important enough to destroy the life she sacrificed herself to protect.
So I stopped thinking about them.
While they spent the rest of their lives drowning in the consequences they created themselves.